All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast brought to you by Huntworth. Huntworth gear for all types of weather, all types of terrain, all types of budgets. It's clothing that just works. Check them out at huntworthgear.com. And right now they're running their preseason sale. It's 30% off everything at regular price on the website. And this is the best pricing that you're going to see until Black Friday. So if you're looking to upgrade your gear, it's a great time to get over to Huntworth and check that out, huntworthgear.com. Right now, man, I don't know what you guys are seeing on your trail cams, if you got them out, but Frank's already getting pictures of some hard-horned bucks. I'm still seeing mostly velvet pictures on my cameras, and if you haven't yet checked out Yellowstone, it's a great time to check out the Yellowstone cameras. Right now, through the end of the month, they are still running that refer a friend free data for the entire year. So go to Yellowstone, pick up a camera at regular price, download the app, add your credit card, then go to yellowstone.ai/friend, use code BHC, activate your camera, choose the unlimited annual data plan, and you'll have free data for an entire year. You can do that for up to 4 different cameras. And can't say enough good things about these cameras. I've got, I think about 6 of them out right now. And pictures are coming in, they keep coming in, and customer service is great. The people over there, I can't stress that enough. You're dealing with real people, a real family over in Wisconsin, and it's something that you're not just dealing with a big giant corporation. This is, actually kind of like a grassroots thing. And that's just something you can't say enough about. Love working with those kind of companies. So give them a try, yellowstone.ai. And, for the cost of a camera, give it a shot. You won't be disappointed. And if you've been hiding under a rock, Latitude's Grit series is now out for season 4, and the episode that's come out this week is amazing. We saw it at the film festival in Grand Rapids, and just so cool. And I mean, it's real guy, real bow hunter type scenario. Like the shot on there is like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I would have taken that shot. The reactions, the scenarios, like the way that everything happens, just so cool. If you haven't been checking out the Grit series, if you haven't caught up, just awesome. And I don't know if you guys caught it, but in last week's episode, there was, or it was 2 weeks ago rather, there was a couple of Easter eggs of some gear that they're working on. So check that out too. But get over to Latitude, latitudeoutdoors.com. Check that stuff out. The new Praxis pack, the new ropes. Can't say enough good things about the Method 3. If you listen to Greg Litzinger and you're on Team Lone Star, the Lone Star saddle is kind of growing on him as a one piece. And, just like I used to say about the Classic, the Maverick is an incredible saddle for what it is, for the cost, for, quote unquote, like a minimalist, great piece of gear. Can't go wrong with that one. Use code BHC over there to save 15% with that. And today's episode is, I kind of joked around when I got a hold of Nate. I said, hey, Let's see if we can do an episode to make your life better with guys coming into the pro shop. What can they do at home so that they don't need to go into the pro shop, so they're not constantly hounding you saying, hey, I need this done because I'm going out of state. Hey, I need this done because the season's coming up. Just some things. So we've got some arrow talk, some string talk, some stuff about bows, broadheads, all the things going into the season that we should be thinking about. So this one I think is going to be valuable. Some information that I didn't know, some questions that I had, and love talking with him just about stuff from the archery shop and things like that. So I know you guys are going to enjoy this one. As always, thanks for listening. Enjoy the show. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. Mr. Nate Sellers, the man of many hats, as we were just discussing, Average Jack Archery, Huntworth. And today we're going to talk about how to make his life easier. That's the plan going forward. And this conversation may even be a little late. But talking about it as we're getting into Labor Day, some of you, and maybe I'm even a little bit guilty, are just starting to think about getting your bows back out. And Nate, for you, being an archery shop, has it started to like ramp up for you, or is it like, I guess, when does the PA season start?
PA season starts a little bit later. There's a lot of states that start in September. We're usually that first Saturday in October. So it's not like October 1st. I know there's a lot of states that just say October 1st. So I think we're like whatever that is, like the 3rd or 4th or 5th of October this year. So we still have some time. But it definitely, in my store anyway, back in June, like as soon as turkey season finished up, it really actually started to pick up. And then I always make the joke that the 4th of July, the evening of 4th of July when people go to set off fireworks, if that's a cool night, a guy's got to wear a hoodie or something like that, they'll be sitting out there doing 4th of July, drinking a cold beverage and watching fireworks, and they'll turn to their buddy and be like, oh, it feels like deer season out here. And then all of a sudden it just skyrockets. But this 4th of July in Pennsylvania was like 110 degrees. So it didn't really start skyrocketing until about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's really picked up.
Yeah. So for us here, I mean, the mornings now are in the 50s, and even my daughter taking her to school today, she's like, "Why is it so cold?"
Oh yeah,
And I'm
it's
like, "Well,
beautiful.
it's we're getting into the fall." And but I feel like they're, at least around here, for most of the guys, and for being in the archery club, and kind of seeing the traffic through there, we have like the ebbs and flows, and I think that like you said, as soon as turkey season is done, well, then we have that big push for tack. And then I think that's kind of the where I fall in, is you get all your stuff set. I mean, my bow is completely dialed, like completely, I'm all set up for tack, shoot it. And then, as we talked about before this, then it becomes my wife's time, right? So it's summer, you're doing all the summer stuff. And then it's like, when do you get your bow back out? And then for guys that don't do tack, I think that maybe that's the guys that are thinking, that July 4th, whatever. But, talking with John and all the guys, especially the guys that are going out west, that they're like, oh my God, I gotta get my bow out, and oh, my string's nicked or something's going on, and I'm leaving in X amount of days. Like, the whole topic around this podcast, what I want to do is like kind of things that you can do ahead of time to not be the guy that's running into the shop, on that September 25th saying, hey, I'm going up to camp for the opener, and I need this tomorrow. So what are the most common things that come walking in that are the easiest to prevent, or things that guys could do like at home?
Yeah, I always wonder. It's a double-edged sword as a shop owner, because I personally really like having well-informed, well-prepared customers. Whether that means that they are able to go into another shop, and we have Lancaster Archery in our backyard, right? So we have the biggest archery shop in the pretty much the world almost, 2.5 hours from my back door. And because of that, you got people that are going there, they're going to this other shop, they're coming into mine. And I always wonder, do I just let it continue to be this mad dash rush, or do I try to educate people as I go along? Um, and then from there, I decided, okay, I just need to educate people, and then also kind of explain timelines and also certain products that they could have at their disposal or tools at their disposal that they can fix stuff themselves. Like they don't have to wait till last minute to need me. So the top two things are always arrow repair, fletching arrows, and string repair. String repair and now into tuning. Tuning didn't used to be such a big deal until people started, like idiots like me on the internet, started talking about how important it was. And now it's come to bite me in the rear end, 10, 15 years later, that people want to come into the store and watch, and have me do all the things that I do for on YouTube for free for them. Um, the air repair actually thing is probably the biggest, because guys will wait until maybe they'll pull they're going to TAC, right? They'll go to TAC, they'll shoot the local 3D course, maybe even they do dabble into competition and they compete all spring and summer, um, and they'll kind of damage as many arrows as they possibly can, right? Shoot off a fletching, slice this thing, bend an insert, whatever, and then they'll bring me like 2 dozen arrows on like September 15th. Well, at that point, I'm already backed up 3 weeks, 4 weeks sometimes on getting to air repair. Whereas at home, you could buy yourself a Bitzenberger, buy yourself an OMP Phoenix jig, put 150 bucks, get a pack of blazer vanes, get 100 pack of blazer vanes for like $20 and a bottle of blue Loctite from, any hardware or Walmart. And you could be fletching your own arrows. Because by the time it's getting to a point now with arrow repair, it used to be that I could fletch an arrow for like $1.50, right? It was super cheap, it was super inexpensive, it took me 5 minutes. Now I've got tack vanes and AAE vanes and Q2I and boning and well, this thing needs this primer pen and this glue and this. So now I've got my own materials invested in and I got an OMP jig, I got multiple Bitzenbergers. Um, you know, I have all these things. So now that adds extra cost for you, the consumer. And then my time, time has just not gotten any cheaper. And so, depending on the arrow, if it's wrapped, if it needs tack vanes or whatever's that kind of high material and high workload, you could be looking at $7, $8, $9 an arrow just for me to refletch the thing. Well, at that point, you do a dozen arrows at $8 an arrow, you're at $96. For an extra $50, you could buy all your own stuff and be good for life. And do it at any time. So I think that's one thing that I do encourage people of all the things, is to get into fletching your own arrows, because then you don't have to wait for me. You can have everything ready. You could do one at a time. You could do a dozen at a time. And sure, cutting and inserting, you like the arrow saw portion. Yeah, you still take it into your shop for that. If you don't need to buy that, but the labor intense part is obviously awful. And then the strings and cables, man.
So I want to stop at the
Please stop me.
The arrow. No, but the arrow stuff. So you talked about the way that it used to be, and I just I want to walk that back like a little bit, because back in my day, and this will date me back to when I started, but with aluminum arrows, and even like some of the before I got into any of this, and before like I started going over and having John do everything, and I think that's what got me jaded on fletching arrows even in general, was like back in the day, you went and got your arrows and you just got I don't even know what the compound was, but you just got the arrow fletch, like Fletch-Tite or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And you put it in your, Joe Jan jig, right? And then that, you did 6 at a time, or, whatever you had.
Correct.
And then you went and you didn't have a primer pen. You didn't, you did clean them up with acetone or whatever, rubbing alcohol, whatever you did. But now you're right. You got to use I guess when I say you gotta, what can you walk us down like what you gotta do? Like, is there a, I don't even know if like it's an entry level vein where you could just use, can you use just a blazer vein without all that other crap? And then down to like a AAE where you got to buy all these space age components and you have to bake them in the oven and sterilize them and use UV light and do all this stuff to set them, I mean,
Yeah.
because I think that, just like you said, with the internet, we overthink things. We gotta, again, one of my favorite podcasts, one of my favorite things, one of my things that's like centered me the most on like bringing me back to just being like, it's okay to be okay, is the podcast I did with Warren Womack and asking him about his bow and his arrow setup. And he said, in my quiver, I have 10 different arrows that are different lengths, different fletchings, different everything, because he said, I'll never be able to shoot these well enough. And the guy's killed 1,000 deer. I mean, like, legitimately, like in a book, documented, So that to me has kept me able to think like, I don't need to overthink this with brace heights and all this stuff. Will it help? Will it make it better? Will it make the arrow flight better? Will it make my life easier? Probably. But is it okay to just go out there and fling these arrows? And if I can get them to hit where I want them to hit, then it's going to be fine. So going back to the arrow thing, like, is there, for a guy who doesn't want, I guess, who's intimidated by doing his own arrows, is there an easy way?
Yeah, so I do have two rules with customers when they come into my shop. All your arrows must be the same length, and they must all be the same, like the same brand.
I
The
was talking
same
for
weight.
trad archery. Just
But even but here, that's all. That's my only rule. I have no other rules. You don't need left helical, right helical, wraps. A certain amount of FOC, cut to a certain actual length based on your jaw. I don't care. I could not care less. I used to be very anal retentive about, oh, we got to do this thing and make sure this and the crestings are all lined up. Dude, I couldn't care less anymore. And it's because I have witnessed exactly what you're describing. I've witnessed guys on the tournament trail literally just build arrows and just smash 12s, hit X's on a Vegas face. I've watched guys pull arrows out of a box in my store. 29 inches, they say, okay, cut them down, throw inserts in them, and they're wadding them at 80. I've seen it with a factory fletched arrow, right? It's nothing insane. And so, by basically, as long as they are all the same length and they are all fletched the same, they all look the same, same company, whatever. Those are my only two rules. That's it anymore. And so when it comes to it's not cool to watch somebody, like when I started making YouTube videos and I, started doing stuff, like putting a wrap on an arrow was like insanity. Like it was just like this unheard of color thing. People were still paint dipping cresting onto their shafts to add color instead of adding a vinyl wrap. Like Whitewater wasn't even a brand yet at the time. And so when I was doing that at the beginning, fletching up blazer veins was like the coolest thing. Fletch type platinum was a cool thing. We had a lazy Susan, of bits and burgers like you're describing. Now, if you watch Google, if you Google fletching my own arrows or how to fletch an arrow, this dude's got this setup. He's got a 3D printed tray. He's got 6 different types of glues. He's got an accelerator spray to make it bond faster. And as a new person in the world of archery, even as a veteran, you're like, what the heck is going on here, man? And sure, but then you don't see is that maybe that person does or does not know what all that stuff does. They just have it, right? It's cool. And so for me, there are so many different options out there that don't cost $9,000 for a fletching jig.
If you've been looking to upgrade your cellular camera system to a system that's easy to use you need to check out Yellowstone.ai. Their app is simple, intuitive, and designed for hunters by people who actually hunt. From setup to viewing your photos and managing your cameras, everything is straightforward and easy to navigate. Yellowstone's Y2 cellular trail camera was given ATA's Best New Technology Award for its ability to automatically connect to the strongest carrier, send HD photos and videos directly to your phone, and withstand year-round field conditions. What really sets Yellowstone apart is their customer service and lifetime warranty. When you need help, you're dealing with a US-based support team that understands hunters and can get your questions answered quickly. They also offer highly competitive data plans and camera pricing, making it easier to keep more cameras in the field without breaking the bank. And if you're investing in equipment, it's nice knowing it's backed by their lifetime warranty that gives you the confidence season after season, spending less time making unnecessary visits to cameras and more time focusing on the hunt. Whether you're monitoring a home farm, a lease, or a public land setup, Yellowstone delivers the features hunters need with the support and value they deserve. Head over to Yellowstone.ai and see why more hunters are making the switch. Backed by a lifetime warranty, Yellowstone cameras are built to keep hunters connected and confident.
That don't, they're lick and stick, right? Like any boning product. Like I always recommend boning vanes, and even to an extent Q2i. They literally just put glue on and stick it to the arrow. No fancy prep needed, no whatever. But that's not what you're going to see your top end archers that are getting paid to use. They'll use something like a tack vane, which is a great vane. Tack makes a great vane, but you gotta like hold it to an east facing wind and prime it just right and add zero point 0.3 grams of glue and then hopefully it sticks, you know. And so it might not sound cool to keep it simple with a blazer vane, but that'll at least get you started. It'll definitely steer your arrow. I sell 8 bazillion pre-fletched blazer vane arrows in my store every single year from every major manufacturer, and they seem to be working just fine. And so that's what I tell people. I say just something simple, something easy, components that are easy to find, meaning the glue is easy. You don't have to use a special glue with any sort of normal vane. And you'll learn very quickly if it's something that you want to do. It always looks like my videos included that like we like really enjoy that arrow boating process, and I know there are customers that come into my store that are really excited to build their own arrows. Like it's like a thing for them. It's like a rite of passage. I couldn't care less. I'll have them build my arrows. That's how little I care. I don't care at all. And so you can get super involved in it if you want to, but it is really not necessary. And just something simple at home will keep you ahead of the curve when it comes to your shop getting busy this time of year. And also, will give you an opportunity to see if it's something you want to continue to do.
So for me, I hate building arrows. I build my own arrows. I hate it. But so that's why I like the Zinger products, because I just put them on there and I'm done. They fly good for me. Perfectly fine. One of the problems that I have, and I would like you to help me with this, and again, I feel like I do everything quote unquote right. But I have the worst problems with inserts pulling out. And I'll do everything that the manufacturer for the arrow says. I'll use all the right products. I'll clean the inside with acetone. I don't. So Jake just asked me if I like score the inside of the arrow at all, or if I rough that up at all, which I don't do. That was the first I'd ever heard of it. But any tips for that? Because that's the one thing that becomes a problem for me.
It's interesting. What kind of glue are you traditionally using for something like
all
that?
of it, anything,
Really?
anything. I've used everything. I've used
Hot melt?
I've used hot melt, JB Weld, frickin' like so Black Eagle. They say you're supposed to use their specific stuff, and
Yeah.
I've used it brand new. I've used it old. And I'm like, oh, well, it was old, so it must be that. So I'll buy brand new stuff, clean it out, and that stuff is nasty. It's black and, it
It's
sticks
the vulcanized rubber
it
stuff.
gets everywhere.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
But like I said, it doesn't matter what product I use. So it's probably me, because it's been every single product that I use. So what is the process to
I don't know what kind of Bermuda Triangle you have over your house in Michigan, but that sounds rough. I am very old school. I stick every insert in with hot melt, every single arrow, with the exception of like Easton hit inserts that require an epoxy. Because they don't have an exterior portion to the insert. Every single insert that comes out of my store is literally fletched, and I wipe off. I have a patch of skin on this hand that has no feeling whatsoever because I'm just wiping off extra hot glue onto the palm. Um, and I think I've had maybe 5 or 6 total inserts come out that were not um, because they hit a 4x4 or they shot a car tire or they hit a tree or something like that. And I don't know, I probably sell a couple thousand arrows a year. So, having a half a dozen out of a couple thousand over the past 5 years is a pretty good success rate for me. And that's just using hot melt. I will say an underrated product that is actually relatively inexpensive, but is just a crossover from another sporting good, is golf shaft epoxy. Brampton is the name of the company that makes it, and this is the stuff I use for hit inserts. It's a 2-part. It's a 15-minute that has a 24-hour cure time. But Brampton golf shaft epoxy, it's used to put driver heads onto the shaft, so it can handle insane torque. Insane torque. If it can handle putting a golf head onto a shaft and dealing with someone smashing a golf ball at 150 miles an hour, it can definitely deal with an insert. So yeah, I will use that, but that will not come out. You put the old drill bit down the back of the shaft and try to whack it out. Yeah, you ain't doing that. It's going to bring half the arrow's guts with it. So that's why I use hot melt. I do have a fair amount of customers that will shoot a tack. They'll go to local 3D course and they'll put an arrow into the leg. Right, there's that rebar that runs up the leg of the deer or the whatever target they're shooting at, and they'll bend the insert. And the ability with using hot melt, just leave that field point in there, heat up the field point, it heats up the glue that's surrounding the insert. Pop it out, spin it. If the carbon's still straight, put a new insert in, and they're off to the races. You use any other sort of glue, and that's not happening. That's a destroyed arrow, and you're gonna have to get another one. So, yeah, I've always personally used hot melt for literally everything. It's just the easiest thing for me.
And then what's the prep on that, both for the insert and the shaft?
Literally nothing. When I said I don't care,
So
I don't care. Nope. No acetone. When I started this process, 15 years ago, I was with a Q-tip. I had a Q-tip. I would clean it out. Like I would cut it first. Q-tip and then square the end. Q-tip down with acetone, pull it out. Then I would take a 22 caliber brass or copper, whatever it is, bore brush for a 22 pistol or rifle, and I would scuff up the end on the inside, and then I would clean it with acetone again, and then I would hot melt my insert. And then when I started working in a production setting in a shop about 10 years ago, the guy, I'll never forget, the owner, Pat, he literally goes over the saw, cuts the arrow, pulls an insert out of the, drawer, he lights the torch for the hot melt, heats it up, slams the insert into the arrow, wipes off the extra glue, screwed in the field point, the guy went on his way. And I looked at him and said, don't you have to clean the inside? Don't you just scuff it up? He's like, no, just cut the arrow and put the insert in. And so ever since, for the past 10 years, basically, I have been doing that exact thing. I literally just cut them. If it's a gold tip, I'll knock the extra carbon out, because usually gold tips have a little bit of extra carbon on the inside. They get a little powder. I'll just kind of tap on the end of the bench, and I just pull the inserts out of a bag and heat them up and slam them in there with some hot melt, and then they're on their way. And I do that with my own stuff too. That's not just like I don't care, it's a customer's error. Like I do that with all my own stuff. Literally cut them, pull the points out of the, if it's a target arrow, pull the points out of the bag. If it's a hunting arrow, pull the inserts out of the box and heat the insert, heat the glue, slide it in there, wipe off the excess, screw in a field point, and I'm ready to go in 5 minutes. So, yeah, it's boring. It's a boring answer, but it works.
Well, but that's the thing is I'm trying to dumb this down. Not necessarily, but just make it not intimidating, right, and seem doable. And again, for myself, it's I I I always have to I always have to remember that I have all of this stuff at my disposal. And it's not because of the podcast or anything like that, because anybody that's local to me has the same stuff, because our Bowman's Club has an incredible pro shop. I mean, and they just redid it. We have uh, arrow saw, we have a bow press, we have a draw board, we have a vise, we have everything, and it's all just been updated. So it's incredible. So if you want to cut your own arrows, if you want to do all that stuff, you just go there and you can do it. And there's plenty of knowledge in the room. Um, but to that point, they may want to use 75 different products to do it. So and just so I want to just make it accessible to people to say, okay, well, I can do it with just these three products. And so for the fletching glue, you had said just a blue Loctite.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not my favorite, but it's obviously like you can find it everywhere. If you're gonna, when I first started, I was using Boning Fletch Type Platinum, which you can still find today. It works on some products, like a boning product. It definitely works on being boning glue, but the cure time is really long. It's 5 minutes in the clamp. It's like 4 to 8 hours full cure time, and you can get a really high quality fletch job done with a normal cyanoacrylite or super glue. I prefer anything that's a gel. I use Green Cap Gorilla Glue gel forever, forever, forever. And then I wanted to um, when I started my own shop 5 years ago, I found that it couldn't keep up with production. I don't know if it was like separating or something like that, and it just wasn't working out. I've tried G5 Blue Goo, I've tried Gold Tip Grip, I've tried I think it's Easton has called the insert iron, which you can use for both field points and for whatever. I know a lot of people like Bob Smith's. That's like a hobby glue, for like model cars and planes and stuff like that. I have settled on using tack glue for everything, and the reason why in my position where I've used tack glue for everything is that it's like the whole all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. Um, Not all glues work on tack veins, but tack glue works on all veins. And so in my store situation, I use tack glue because the compounds that are in it, I don't care what arrow a guy walks into my store with, I have a glue that's going to stick to his arrow. It's going to stick to any vein on the market. And so I think retail, a 1 ounce bottle runs about 17, $18, something like that. So it's not the cheapest thing in the universe. But also it does, I don't even know how many dozens and dozens and dozens of arrows in my store before I need to get a new bottle. So it's not, of all the parts of fletching, it's by far the least expensive. I mean, heck, even at $17, it's still cheaper than a pack of vanes, and from a lot of companies. And it'll last you. It'll last you a long time. So yeah, I switched to tack glue. I used to run like a bottle for this brand and a bottle for this brand, and I said, you know what, to heck with it. This isn't worth my time. But if you're not fletching anything normal or anything out of the ordinary, Gorilla Green Cap Gel is probably my most recommended. You could find that at Walmart, Dollar General. It's everywhere.
Yeah. So the reason that I asked is because I remember talking to Kyle from DCA, and I think what he recommends for his veins is like, I think it's Loctite 401. And, but even for, so my mind always goes to like the worst case scenario, and I would hope that there isn't anybody that's going out of state hunting that doesn't have enough arrows with fletchings that would need to refletch them on the fly. But you're going to be able to find blue Loctite anywhere because there's a Dollar General at if there's a gas station, there's a Dollar General now. So
Pretty much.
there's a good chance that you're going to be able to find blue Loctite. And, so in that case, like again, that scenario, how do you feel about like, I don't know, I think it's like Arizona or some of those companies have those like little quick fletching jigs that are just the three things where you collapse them. Like I'm
Yeah.
just thinking as like a travel scenario.
Oh, I love them. I absolutely love them. They're just like, again, they are, yeah, they're the Boning makes a tower jig version, which has a stand, so you don't have to hold it the whole time. But yeah, Arizona makes, I forget even what the name is. Yeah, but it's a two-tone blue color, and I think they're like $40, $50. They're not insane, and you can buy them to either do a right or a left or a straight. Buy one of those in a right, keep it somewhere in a bow case for and a pack of blazer vanes for out of state, whatever, and you know you'll be off to the races. I always when it comes to fletching and whatnot, I always tell, like, I've had people come into my store a lot, and they'll shot a vein off an arrow, totally normal. It's very normal, but they'll be like, "Man, I looked for hours," and they'll pull the old vein out of their pocket and they'll hand it to me. It's like, "Can you glue this back on?" And I go, "No, I'm stripping all three veins off and starting from scratch." Um, and that's exactly what you're going to have in the situation if you ever damage an arrow out of state. You're going to be stripping that thing, and either you don't use it, or you strip it and just refletch it. And if you are doing all of your own arrows anyway, and then again, nothing fancy, but if you're doing them all anyway, if you fletch them all with that $50 tower jig, that $50 Arizona jig, then it doesn't matter. Just do it right there in the field. Strip all three of them off, put three blazer vanes or whatever, glue them, clamp it, and you have an extra arrow. Yeah, I wouldn't expect anybody to, go on an out-of-state hunting trip with like three arrows. Like that would be insanity. But I could definitely see, a situation where you might damage a couple. I don't know, get them caught in a car door. I don't know, a variety of different things. And just the ability to repair them yourself, or not be shooting something that's so. I'd say this all the time. Guys who build like really confusing arrows, like you with your zingers, that's not confusing. You could either use shafts or you could strip off pre-fletched arrows, and boom, you're done in 5 minutes. But then these guys that build, okay, well, it's 28 and 3/16 carbon to carbon, and the insert's got this with a 10 grain fact weight behind it, and it's got a 4-inch wrap with these veins, and what you're going to be in trouble if you slam all your arrows in the tailgate of your truck and you're on the out of state hunt. You're done. That's it. There's no other option. Where if you shoot a quote unquote normal arrow, just a pre-fletched arrow or a pretty standard arrow, you could walk into any bow shop, I'll bet, find that exact arrow or something within half a grain, and be right back to the woods within half a day. And that could save a week-long elk trip. That could save a long weekend to somewhere in the Midwest that you're local to. You drive to Wisconsin, I drive to Ohio, and you've got yourself a situation that's fixable. Whereas if you build these really bougie, boutiquey things and you smash them, Godspeed, it's over.
Funny thing about that, I'm so zinger loyal for tack. I bought 2 dozen just because they're so cheap. The We call them the Ching Chong arrows. I don't know what they are. The Amazon specials.
Oh yeah, heck yeah,
Um,
brother.
I, but I literally put them backwards in the arrow saw and I cut the blazers off them and then I just threw the zingers on.
Did you have to whack the inserts out too? They were probably already inserted.
Nope, nope.
Oh
My
no, they
carbon to
weren't
carbon
inserted
was
yet.
just about.
Okay.
No, they were. They were. My
Oh,
carbon
okay.
to
So you
carbon
cut
was
both
just.
ends.
No,
Gotcha.
I didn't. My carbon to carbon was like just about perfectly to the end of the blazer, so I just zapped
Oh,
it
okay.
right
Okay. All
there
right.
and squared them up, and
That's
we were
squish.
off to the
Just send
races.
them. I had a young man in my store do that. The Lancaster was doing their customer appreciation weekend, and they have a steel deer, right? shoot at it like 80 yards or something like that. Enter a chance to win a bow. Long story short, he actually ended up winning the bow, which was hilarious. But they do the video of him. He shoots for my store. He shoots ultra arrows and all this sort of stuff. Well, they pan over to him as he's winning the bow, and he's walking up, and he's got a quiver full of just obvious Amazon special arrows. And so I text him about it. He's like, dude, I'm not sending $12 arrows at a steel deer. I'll send 12-cent arrows at a steel deer at 80 yards. And he said apparently they work. But yeah, hideous, like a green and white fade cresting. Well, I shouldn't say it's hideous. Little flamboyant for my taste for an arrow.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple guys at the club shoot them for tack and then bring them in and shoot them for league. And but so I'm shooting 70 pounds. I think my bow was like 72, and my arrows were like, I want to say they were like 396
Oh
when
yeah.
I was done with them. And so we were like right on the border of like that 5 grains per inch. And but I got a lot of distance out of them for tack. So
Yeah, a lot of distance,
my
and a lot
hands
of
are
bow
okay. They
noise.
didn't explode.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Braver than
But
me. I wouldn't do it.
yeah, well, sometimes you got to live a little.
Have a little, put a little carbon into your artery in your forearm. It's fine. It's just a flesh wound.
Yeah.
You'll heal.
Yeah. That's what insurance is for.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm paying
So,
out the nose for it anyway.
well, so I've killed a deer with just about everything so far, and I need to kill one with a crossbow. They say so. I was trying to like expedite that, give myself a reason because I'm like I'm
Yeah.
never
Oh
do it.
yeah,
I'm
you'll be
not
there.
gonna.
I'll put an arrow through your arm if you start hunting with a crossbow.
It's like I'll have to. That's the only way. Right?
Yeah.
But then I would have to like lose all my teeth because then Greg would be like, "You need to do a mouth tab. Like you're not going to crossbow."
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so you said now strings are the next thing as far as like self preservation.
Yeah, it's the string thing. So what people don't understand, and it's gotten way worse. I would say in the past 10 years is every bow, every year companies are making a new bow every year, and the new bow does not. It might have a similar technology, but it will not have the same strings and cables as last year's bow. I remember when Matthews went from um, the V3 to the V3X. I think is what it was, or the V3X to the Phase 4. It was two bows that had the exact same strings and cables in like recent history. That never happens. Like never happens. Like whenever I'd get a string package from a builder, it would say V3X Phase 4. Like it was the exact same geometry that they were able to use the exact same string set. Outside of that, it's not the case. So if you think about it, we've been making bows since the 70s. That means you've got 40, 50 plus years of technology where the strings and cables are never the same. So I cannot stock, like a guy will come in, and maybe I can get lucky and stock a set here or stock a set there of a current lineup, get one of each and have like 10 string sets on hand. um but outside of that, and that's really for emergency situations. Guy cuts it with a broadhead, something like that. I can kind of plan for it. But if you come in with a 5, 6, 7-year-old bow 2 weeks before season, like, I need strings, you have them in stock? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, man. Do you know how much? And then if you want any color other than black, which is the only color I'm going to stock, you're right back to square one anyway. And so the strings and cables thing, it's and people, and I did. I thought a lot about, do I try to stock strings and cables? And I thought about it. Let's just pick one of the reputable companies like Gas. Like Gas is going to be 140 set retail. I can tell you with 100% confidence that I have over $100 in that string set in my shop. So it's not like I'm making $100 on a $140 set of strings. That means for every string set, I am putting out $100 of overhead, right? So if I do $100 of overhead into a string set for a bow that's 6 years old, what are the chances of me selling that string set to a guy who needs it like right now versus putting $100 into broadhead overhead that definitely will move, or arrow overhead that will definitely move? So your local shop not stocking strings and cables makes complete and total sense. And so what my biggest recommendation is, when you buy, and I understand it's a little more money up front, but it's well worth it. When you buy a set of string cables for your bow, and I always say, talk to me in turkey season. Turkey season, no one's doing anything. All the shows are over, ATA's over, the Deer Classic shows are over. We're all sitting back in our shops just working. You can get a string set turned around in less than 2 weeks. Installed. Like, it's a pretty good gig in May and June, April, May, and June. And when you do that, buy another set. Just buy another set and just have it. Because, let's say you get them done and, you shoot them all summer, you get it ready for the opening day. First week of vacation, you step out of your truck, you pull your quiver out, you go to inspect a broadhead or something, and you nick your string. First week of November. You are up the creek without a paddle. Your bow season's over. Just be done. It's done. It's over. There's nothing more you can do unless you have a backup set of strings and cables at your house that you already preemptively bought that just saved your season. I mean, completely saved your season. We actually have a program in our store called the Season Saver Program, where if you do put strings and cables on your old bow or you buy a brand new bow, I will give you a discount on you buying another set of strings and cables. And you can have them in your house, in your bow case, waiting just on the off chance that something crazy happens, because you'll really be thankful to your future self will love your past self that you prepared for that moment. And if you never use them and you just shoot for 3 years, strings are totally fine to sit in the package for that long. You shoot them for 3 years, you need to replace them, boom, you already got them. And then you could buy a whole nother set and start the process all over again. It's so beneficial. I've saved my own butt doing that by having a second set of strings and cables and allowing me to stay completely in the woods and be set back for as little time as possible.
On that note, new bows, factory strings. So now, like, and you said they change them up, yada yada yada. Um, I know the new expeditions are coming with ABB strings. Um, as far as like what's coming on the bows, I know, John, and it's been, just depending on the bow, obviously, when we did our challenge with the bear, we swapped out both the Matthew strings and the bear to ABB strings just so that we were testing them apples to apples. Um, and then John always is like, keep your old strings for exactly that reason. But when you get a new bow, like buying a brand new bow, how do you feel about upgrading the strings right there? I mean, how do you feel about factory strings versus aftermarket strings? Are they quote unquote good enough? And is it depending on the manufacturer or, you know,
I used to be a big, we got to change out. Like, and I'm talking 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. I was like, I think you could change out to custom strings immediately. And now my mantra is completely changed on that. I mean, I'm back. I'm right back to where I should be with arrows. That bow came with those strings. They're probably fine. When you buy a brand new vehicle, do you immediately change the tires? Or you try to get some life out of the factory ones. Um, and basically everybody now is making really quality strings or is using a quality string builder already. So, for example, like Darton has used threads and Athens used gas and uh, Matthews with their new match system is fantastic. Really good strings out of Matthews with the match system. Elite has Winner's Choice, which has been making strings for forever and a day. Um, so realistically, I've every single bow that comes to me, I might actually run them for two. I actually have. I was setting up my hunting bow the other day. My Elite Ethos is still running the same stock strings, silver Winner's Choice, that it did when it came from the factory 3 years ago. It's the exact same thing. And they're working great. Zero peak rotation, no problems. And now, did I buy a set of backups still? Yeah, absolutely. And whenever those strings fall apart, I'll be putting a set of gas on there. But until those strings fall apart, I have no reason to change them. And so I'm a big believer, just run the stock strings. Really, really do. The only ones I could maybe see is Bear, but even still, if you're buying a Bear, you're there for the price point. You're there for that product at that price point. So yeah, the strings aren't going to be amazing, but you're already there for that price point. You're not going to spend another 150 bucks on strings anyway. So just yeah. I also I've had zero complaints about Bear strings. People love to hate, man, but it's a good product.
Yeah, like I said, we did it just for the haters. Just, I mean, and John's being John, so we had to make sure that there was
I don't
no there
I
was
don't
no
blame you
out.
for doing it for the bow comparison. The bow comparison makes total sense. I'm saying for the end consumer, if you're gonna shoot, just shoot the way it came. It ain't gonna hurt you. I promise you. Everybody now wants to make a quality string because that's a part of the bow. Like if any part of a bow had a bad reputation, oh, the draw cycle's really bad. Oh, the limbs always crack. Oh, the strings are part of the bow. So if the strings sucked, or the draw cycle's bad with the cams, or the module screws always rattle loose, or the limbs always delaminate, that's a part of the bow that the customer's not going to want to purchase. And if the customer doesn't want to purchase it because of the strings, then that's a problem. Then they aren't going to buy. They're not going to sell the bow. So companies really have put a lot of quality control and TLC into making sure their stock strings coming out of their factories just really work and are just really nice right out of the box.
Ah, man, I don't know. I almost have a problem with that statement.
You're allowed to. It's okay.
So, just my question with Bear, and and Bear's the only one that I can pick on, and I've talked about it on the show a bunch. I truly believe that they make the best bows for the money, and we've talked about it for getting into it, like apples to apples, like fit and finish, maybe not. Um, for the dollar for dollar, what you could put into, like, let's say that, I mean, because God, even a non-flagship bow now is over $1,000. You could take a $500 Bear and put that other $500 plus into accessories and have a incredible setup. But my only question is it just we could we could talk about it just like Huntworth. When you have 12,000 SKUs on a product like a bow with a million moving parts, and you have a obviously a top of the line, right? So Bear has a flagship bow that is selling to one consumer. It's built to quote unquote compete with a certain other bow. And they put out so many other products down here. Are they expecting the same hard use out of those lower end products? That would be my only question.
You mean from like the standpoint of do they make higher components or strings or anything on their top end bows versus their bottom end bows?
When you're talking about, because like you said, you were talking about like quality control, all of that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. Like, what are they thinking of? Like, I mean, are they when they put like their flagship bow, when they're doing all of their like torture chesting and all of that sort of stuff, they're building it to a certain specification to compete with these new bows. And I would assume that when they're building these other bows, they're just kind of taking the old technology and slapping it on these older bows with known technology that's not going to perform to the same, specifications as far as like speed and that sort of thing, so it's not going to have the most advanced cams and all that stuff. But I'm just thinking, are they building it for the could the guy that's going to go hunt 150 days of the year get the same durability out of their $300 product, $350 ready to hunt? You know, I'm thinking of their, like, I don't know, they're like 30 to 60 pound bow or whatever.
Hmm.
Those packages. I can't think of the names of them. As any of their other you understand where I'm
Yeah.
going with this?
No, I get what you're saying. I can tell you without a doubt, because I've seen it, that everything is made exactly the same in Florida. Every single thing. Like their strings come from the same. It's the same strings. It's the same machining process on the cams. It's the same riser machining. The only thing that is different on their flagships is they will offer more technology to them. So Bear uses Gordon glass limbs on their flagship bows because they have a limb pocket tuning system. Individual bolts in the backside of the limb pocket. Outside of that, they are finished exactly the same. The strings are built exactly the same. The cams are machined and anodized. The whole kit and caboodle exactly the same. It is wild to me. It's absolutely wild because no other company. I take that back. Elite is probably the other company that's known for doing that. Like literally, and you said about flagship bows. Elite's mid-price stuff is also not inexpensive. Like their terrain's like 750 bare bow. The Hunter 33 is 999, but those have the exact same everything as their flagship bow. Just like how Bear has literally the exact same everything between the flagship bow and the baseline, because it's all made in the exact same place. It's all made under one gigantic roof for Bear down in Florida and for Elite up in New York. Um, I think we all know and remember, like, we all kind of shot a Mission bow at one point, and Mission is finally from Matthews. I think it's finally grown up, has a glow up, right? And it's finally doing what it used to do, which was make adult bows at a mid level price. It was making just kind of toys for a while. Everybody shot a Menace or a Radic or a Hammer. But the back wall was awful. The limbs were definitely not the same. It was all made, but it clearly was a different level of quality control. And so it's interesting now to see companies, basically like, what, if we're going to put all this effort and energy into the flagship bow, let's just put all the same effort and energy into painting the risers the same for the kids' bows and using the old flagship limbs that we aren't using anymore, but we still have all the drawings for. Let's just use that on the mid-price bow. And hey, we're already making all these strings anyway in-house. Let's just make them for the mid-price bow. And so as a consumer, you have, I think there's never been a better time to get into archery, because top to bottom, from a US based manufacturer, top to bottom, the line is just tremendous. The quality control is great. The finishes are just getting better. I actually was just talking to my Bear Rep the other day, and I said, hey, anything new coming up here this fall that I need to be kind of aware of, from a media perspective? And he's like, our biggest thing has been our finishes, like all of our film dipping, getting more solid color bows and so on. And it's just like, it's cool to think like that's an exciting thing. Like we used to think an exciting thing meant like a new cam every year, but it's like quality control. It's like a big deal. And so as a shop owner and as someone who gets a lot of people into the sport of archery and a lot of people in the sport of bow hunting, there's never been a better time, and it's so cool. Like I vividly remember when I started working in shops 10 almost 11 years ago. It was like you have flagship stuff and then you have like the little kid bows, and there was like no bridging in between. You either spent $2,000 or you spent 200. There was nothing in between. And now that market is just so big and accommodates every archer. and you're getting a really quality product in that budget-friendly mid-tier price state.
Well, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because if you already have all the tooling and everything set up, why kind of reinvent the wheel if you're doing it all in house? So, I mean, I could see that. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, if you're already
Maybe
there,
we'll have
if
to do
Bill's
that.
already making strings, let Bill make strings. You know, it's just he doesn't care if it's 51 and a half or 52 and a half. He's just making a string.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
So, from a string standpoint, from a guy just pulling his bow out of the case, right? We say 3 years, or but how do you gauge it? So the guy says, "This bow is brand new. I've never shot it. I've only hunted with it 2 times. It's 7 years old. Uh, is it still good? How do you test the string for, you know, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
Me, being not a maintenance guy, have indeed going, and this is my first experience into to looking at bear bows. Maybe I've told you this story, but I getting ready to go. I mean, I think it was in my last year of pharmacy school, and uh, I had an opportunity to take a break between rotations, so I had the whole month of November off. So I was getting ready to go to Ohio and draw my bow back, and I heard a tink, and I pulled it away from my face, and it just exploded. One of the cables just let go, and so then I was like, I had about 4 days before we left
Just
to
perfect
do
amount of time.
exactly what you said: either get a new string or buy a new bow. And so I did the same thing we did with the bear lift thing. Is I looked at all the specs, and there was a off the shelf ready to hunt bear encounter for $300 that had the exact same specs, like exact same specs as the Matthews Healy M. So I bought that and swapped over all my components. And not that year, but the following year, I killed the biggest deer that I've ever killed with a $300 off the shelf bow. So, but string maintenance was not high on my list, regardless.
To say the least. Yeah.
Yeah.
String maintenance, it is interesting to me, like when veteran bow hunters are like, "Do you think this string is good?" You know, and I'm like, "Have you not been staring at bow strings long enough?" But then you really start thinking about it. Most people only change their string. Most people every 5 to 6 years. So if you started bow hunting as a grown up, let's say at 21, 22, right? You're fresh out of college and you have to make big boy decisions, right? And you're 40. You've only done at the most 8 string changes over 20 years. Well, 8 string changes over 20 years, that's not enough to really kind of remember what it looked like the last time you need to replace it. And so, what I tell people is if anything looks like it's damaged, it probably is. And you should get it down. I mean, your intuition will tell you. What I do struggle with, and you bring up a great point, is there's actually a guy that's local to me. He shoots low poundage, 50 pounds. He's an older gentleman. And he puts a bazillion shots on his bow. He just goes down to his basement, just pounds like 15 yards. He loves it. But because he shoots 50 pounds or 47 pounds at a 27-inch draw, his strings look brand new. I mean, he'll have seven, eight, nine, $10,000 on, or 10,000 shots on his strings, and because he's not really reefing on them, they look brand new, and he babies them. He waxes them continuously. So taking care of your strings really will extend the life of the string cables. But realistically, anytime you start seeing serving damage, you start seeing fibers come break loose. Uh, Another indicator too, like for the not for the cables but for the string, is if your peep starts twisting and it won't stop. That's just a really good indicator that stuff's starting to break down. You really need to get it swapped out. Um, I do tell people that'll come in this time of year. Here we are, late August, beginning September, And they'll be like, hey, does this need change? And I'm like, well, if it was April, I would say yes, but it's August, so I'm saying no. But you're going to shoot it sparingly between now and the end of archery season, and just make sure you don't do anything stupid. Rarely have I seen strings do exactly what you're describing, which is just blow up. Very rarely. Bow strings are very durable. They're very tough. Not to say the freak accidents don't happen, but most of the time, this time of year, if it's not terrible, I say, hey, come talk to me after the season's over. We'll get you 2 strings. We'll make sure we're not in this predicament come next fall.
So one thing, and I think that this is probably something good to ask because I guess I feel comfortable with my answer to this, but maybe I'm mistaken because I've had a lot of string changes, but also I can just, in the past I just have John make one, or if he can't make one, I just order one and then we just throw it on. It's not, for me, it isn't a big deal where I have to go to a shop and do that. I did have a shop put the last one on, but that's because I had to get my limb swapped out, so I just had them do it at the same time. But as far as like appearances, right? So I can have a string put on, say, in January, like after the season, going into leagues. And so I have a brand new string, shoot it a bunch, shoot it through tack. So, it's got a bunch of shots on it, but good condition, not dried out or anything like that. And I'll tell you that I can vividly see the string that exploded in my head, and it was like as dry as you can imagine, like white, dry. There was no fuzziness to it at all. It was like so brittle. Um, but because of the style of hunting that I do, and a lot of the hunts that I go on, and my friends, like, I'm just beating the brush, just dragging my bow through everything. I don't go through a season without depositing an arrow on some sort of public land somewhere where I get back and I'm like missing an arrow out of my quiver because of where I've been. And so my string gets a bunch of fuzz on it because it's been drugged through everything. In that case, like, is that my string is getting bad? Do I just need to wax it? Like guys that have like their strings are just fuzzing up, or is that something to be concerned about, or are we just talking about like broken strands, etc.?
You get about 2 years of doing what you're talking about before I would strongly recommend replacing stuff. What if you really dive into what a string is just continuous loops of one strand of material. And that strand is built up of tiny little fibers, basically Dacron for old bows and Dyneema and Vectrin for new bows, right? And so it's just a bunch of little million little fibers, like a spider web, all glued together that end up making one single filament of material. And then that filament of material is spun around in a circle and then just served at the end. So there's no knot. So one strand is the whole bowstring. So if you start fuzzing all these pieces of the string and all these parts of the strand, you are just compromising the same thing over and over and over again. Now, a little bit of fuzz, putting wax on it, no one ever comes into my store and goes, I think I waxed my string too much. Never happens. They're all what you're describing. It's like they just literally took the wrappings off an Egyptian mummy and turned it into a bowstring. That's how dry and brittle it is. That's how most of the time guys end up in trouble. You really, I tell people, if you wax your string once every other week, every 2 weeks, you wax your string, you will do it more than 90% of bow hunters out there. Because that wax, when you melt it, when you rub that wax in, you get that melt on. That's like a ceramic coating on a vehicle. Sure, it sheds water, it doesn't allow water to be absorbed, but also stuff that glides against it doesn't want to snag. It just wants to kind of glide over top and then and brush off. So all the burdock and briars and everything, it's not a perfect fix, but it's the only protection you can give it without causing a problem is by waxing. So I tell guys, if you're going to go beat the tar out of your bow, hunt with your bow, right? I mean, you're hunting, right? You're not babying it like on a tournament trail or something like that. You get about 2 years of doing that before it starts kind of looking like a bath loofah, and you've kind of compromised too many parts of this single strand continuous loop, and you should really look at just replacing it because it is way cheaper to replace strings than it is to replace cams and limbs when something breaks.
And I just want you to kind of go over that because I think that that's something that I would say most guys don't understand. I mean, granted, I learned it a long time ago, but I had no idea. And I would say most casual bow hunters don't, most bow hunters uh, don't understand what you're talking about when you're talking about melting the wax in. I think people think when they just wax their string, they just take that tube of wax and they put it on there and rub it in with their fingers, and that's good.
Yeah, so I mean, uh, just like any other sort of wax coating, protective coating on a vehicle, an RV, side by side four wheeler, it needs to be buffed in. It has to actually kind of quote unquote absorb into the paint or into the finish of the string in this case. So having a quite high quality wax like Boning Textite is a good one. There's a bazillion of one string waxes out there. Just pick one from a reputable brand. You only need to wax the exposed portion of the string. You don't need to touch the serving, which is any part that gets wrapped around the cams or goes through your rollers or down at the ends of the string. Where you knock your arrow, you don't need to wax that. But any sort of the twisted fibers of the exposed string, you just put a little bit on, just like you're putting on chapstick. And then when you grip it with your fingers and rub it, a quality wax is a very, very, very low melting point. I mean, heck, you could probably just leave your bow in the sun almost and it would melt. That's how good a lot of those waxes will be. But underneath that heat of the friction, what you're doing is you're melting it, and that is being absorbed into those fibers, right? Those fibers are very hydroscopic. They want to absorb something. And so if you don't add that wax coating by rubbing it in and letting it absorb into the fibers will want to absorb water. And so guys will often talk about peep twist, how one day it's this way and the next day it's that way. And I ask them, how often do you wax your string? And they say never. I'm like, well, there's your answer. Because all of its protective coating that stops it from absorbing water and getting fatter one day and then drying out and getting skinnier the next day, your peep's just going to turn one side to the other. And it might be different here, it might be different there, but also it might even change your point of impact. If you go out into the swamps of Michigan and it's super wet and it absorbs all this water, or then you go down to a really dry day in southern Illinois, on a velvet hunt or something like that, it'll totally change your point of impact at 30, 40 yards. So waxing is more than just a protectant. It also allows it to stay more stable and more consistent shot to shot, day to day, and weather change to weather change.
So you think this is going to help your workload, or you think
No,
everybody's still going to come in and?
not even remotely. I do this exact same spiel every single year. I will say, it has gotten better. Like, as we've been in business for 5 years, and guys will come in July, August, September, even October. Like October, we stay really busy because there's I don't know about Michigan, but here in Pennsylvania, it's still kind of like the first 2 weeks of the season, it's not really worth it. I get guys that are pulling their bows out after opening day, right? And that blows my mind. That's mind-boggling to me. Not that I spend a whole bunch of time getting a hunting bow ready, but I'll get at least set up the week before opening day. Um, but I have noticed in the past 2 or 3 years that a lot of these guys will come into this really busy time and they'll be like, hey, is there a time when you're not busy? And I always tell them, yeah, turkey season. Come see me in April and May. Not doing much of anything. Well, I've said that for about 3 or 4 years, and this spring was inarguably the busiest April and May I have ever seen. And everybody was like, "Oh, you said you weren't going to be busy in April and May." I was like, "Yeah, well, finally, everybody started finally to listen." And yeah, I think we did about 3 to 4 times as much uh, turnover in April and May this year than we ever have in years past. And I think it's finally because I trained everybody to come in April and May. So it is definitely getting better, but still, I mean, crossbows right now this time of year, they come out of the woodwork every single time this time of year because it's a gun that shoots arrows, and we don't need to start that conversation. I'm already mad. Um, but they'll always come out this time of year. The classic, oh, I pulled my release out and it's rusted shut. That always happens this time of year. Lost all my field points. Do you think these broadheads are still good? And they're just like all bent and dull and stuff like that. So that always happens. But it's getting better in terms of the major catastrophic stuff like strings and cables and complete full blown arrow repair.
Broadheads. I just
I hate to love them.
What a terrible business. What a terrible business.
Sharp triangle on the end of a stick. That's really all it is.
But we want to complicate it, right? You want
Dude,
to
I want
complicate
the
it.
biggest hole I
So
can put into an animal. I just want the biggest thing I can put into an animal. I'm the exact opposite of what everybody else says you should do. It's awful.
so are you fixed blade or I mean, because I know you're good friends with all the Magnus guys, and
Oh yeah.
I mean, I guess
Yeah.
the Magnus guy, but they technically they don't make the biggest hole possible. So,
No, they
I
don't.
mean, that's why I was confused because you know,
So there's a great thing that I do. A customer will come in and be like, "What broadhead do you recommend?" And I always say the same thing. I say, "Do you want the guy behind the counter, or do you want the guy that bow hunts to answer that question?" Because the guy behind the counter, aka me as the shop owner, 100% of the time, I know that a fixed blade broadhead is going to work. I know it's going to penetrate. I know it's going to be sharp. I know it's going to be built well. And if you make a bad shot and it's an all night gut drag job, that's your fault. I did my job as a shop owner. And when I recommend something like Magnus that has a lifetime warranty, when I recommend something like Slick Trick that comes in a pack of four, you get four steel broadheads for the cost of three, basically, made in New York. When I recommend something like that, I know I'm doing the right thing and I'm doing the right thing right out of the gate. But as a bow hunter myself, oh man, I love a mechanical broadhead. I do, I really do. I think, but I'm also in a spectrum of the hunting setup, type where I'm shooting 70 pounds at a 31 and a half inch draw. I got a 480 grain arrow right now going 297 feet a second. I mean, that's a 166. I've got every single means of putting an 8 inch cutting broadhead through a whitetail. Like it's all there, right? Um, but I still, even with that, prefer to shoot like an inch and a half cut three blade Grim Reaper razor cut or inch and a quarter by inch and a quarter mini mag or something like that. So even with that, I still try to keep it modest. I don't recommend let's go shoot the biggest freaking broadhead you could find, because again, I got to be able to practice what I preach and vice versa. Uh, because at the end of the day, I don't really want a person to see what I'm doing, then go have a negative experience from either my recommendation or more importantly from a product that I sell. Like that's just not it's just not a good mixture at all. So I'm definitely a fixed blade guy at heart, but I do like putting a big cut through an animal because obviously the bigger the cut, the bigger the hole, the bigger the blood, the bigger the everything. But I've also watched deer fall over in 10, 15 yards from a fixed blade. So just be smart and make good shots and put a very reliable fixed blade broadhead on the front end of your arrow, and you'll be in really good shape.
yeah, yeah. I think. I think for me it's going to be, I don't know. I hate broadheads, but
Oh
I think it's
yeah,
going
they
to be fixed
suck.
blade for. Well, I mean, I think it's just going to be fixed blade from here on out for me. Um, and it's not because I had a bad experience uh, with a mechanical. It's just last year. I don't want to say it cost me a deer, but I chose not to make a shot because I had a mechanical,
Mm.
and it it doesn't like. I mean, I guess I could say that it haunts me, but it's just frustrating because I had all the time in the world, and I thought one thing was going to happen, and then the deer came through in a bunch of thick stuff, like from, I mean, at 10 steps, 5 steps, I don't know, on the ground. Like it's just the wildest hunt I've ever been on, and part of me says I should have just sent it and you know got the big blood trail or got you know dealt with it, and the other part of me is like I did the right thing, I was ethical. Um, but if and I and then I after that I switched to a fixed blade broadhead because that wasn't going to happen to me again. Made a quote unquote awful shot, like just the well, I made a long shot.
Quote
The deer,
unquote awful.
well, I, the arrow was tracking perfect. It was a long shot. It was 40 some yards. Um, the deer saw the arrow, saw me, heard the arrow again from the ground. Took 2 steps, shot him right in front of the hips. He went 50 yards and fell over. So quote unquote awful, but fixed blade broadhead, terrible shot. Oh, great shot. I mean, and that was with a fixed blade. So, I
I've
hate
never. I
broadhead.
will. Yeah.
Like,
I will never. I will never say, and this is true. I will never say that I have made a shot with a fixed blade that would have been better with a mechanical, and I've never made a mechanical shot that would have been better with a fixed blade. Like, and I'm a bow hunting for. Oh my gosh, this will be my 23rd year bow hunting. Never once have I been like, wow, I really wish I had this other. No, it was either I made an awful shot, period, or it was or I missed, which whatever, done that. Or it was a very successful shot, and I don't care what I broadhead would have had in the front; it would have killed it either way. And so that's why I feel at the end of the day, like realistically, I do get asked if you put a gun to my head and said, "What broadhead are you shooting?" I will tell you, I will shoot a fixed blade, particularly like a Magnus Buzz Cut. I've been shooting that broadhead for 20 years. It has never once looked me in the eye and been like, "I'm not going to work today." Never has. So at the end of the day, yeah, I'll say one thing or get excited about this or whatever, but I hate when guys get into discussion. It's the same thing when we get in discussion about overall arrow weight or FOC or this, that, and the other thing. You can do it a million different ways. There's no need to get upset about somebody else doing it another way. Um, uh, but I know that as a shop owner, I need to make sure that when you leave my store, that I have set you up for success. Where I don't get a phone call later that says, "Hey, that arrow that you sold me, that bow that you sold me, that broadhead, that release, whatever, it broke, it failed, it's not working." So I need to make sure that you can. Anybody on the internet can tell you to do anything. Heck, we're here on this podcast. We can tell you to do anything. But if you're gonna walk out of my store and you spend your hard-earned money, I better darn sure make you. I got it right the first time.
switch gears a little bit, Mr. Huntworth guy.
Oh boy.
Um, I mean, there's a question like so I've asked you via text message. So the grayling hoodie's like my favorite thing ever, but there's one on there that's like almost the same. and I don't remember the name of it, but
The
um,
Shelton hoodie, probably.
um, no, because I have that one. There's another one that's like waterproof or something.
Oh, the Marquette, the Obrus one.
Yeah, yeah, the Marquette, the Obrus one,
Yes.
and I was wondering what the difference was um, on that one.
So we took the Grayling hoodie, which is, yeah, you're right. It's like the best hoodie possible. Love that thing. I wear that thing all season long. Um, we took that hoodie and we made the shell material. We bonded it to windproof, waterproof film. So right now the Grayling hoodie is just really stretchy knit, super soft, super quiet. But with waterfowl, there's a lot of guys that will wear, just a base layer and a hoodie in kind of milder temps because they're moving all the time. But it still needs to be windproof, waterproof, or at least at very minimum windproof and water resistant. And that's what we did with the Marquette. So I actually wore the Marquette hoodie last year when I shot my buck in Pennsylvania because it was Halloween morning. It was pouring down rain, but it wasn't that cold, and so I needed a little bit of insulation. I wore the Winstead rain jacket, I think a Saskatoon vest or something like that, and then the Marquette hoodie. And dude, zero wind, all the waterproofing, everything. I was bone dry, and it was fantastic. The only downside is, of course, as soon as you put a film in it, it gets the crinkle, right? It gets the noise. But you can either have windproof and stay dry, or you can have it be knit and super soft. I don't know. I don't know how to shake it down other way. But yeah, that hoodie's fantastic. We've kicked the tires on bringing it into another pattern other than Obrus. We actually have had a lot of people take Obrus, which is waterfowl, into the deer woods. So, and have been having success with it.
Yeah, because one of the listeners brought it up to me and was like, "Hey, what's the difference?" And I was like, "I couldn't tell you." So I wanted to bring that up on here so you can uh,
Yeah,
uh, talk about it. And I think it would be like a good, even like what you said, like it may be a good option for those days where it's kind of rainy, sleety, um, where you don't necessarily want to just wear the rain jacket. Um, yeah, because uh, I think I say it on every intro, but and I don't know why you guys have the the Shelton vest on clearance because that's the best piece of gear other than the Grayling
the Elkins vest.
Elkins. Yeah, that the
Yeah,
Elkins vest and the Grayling, like so the
there
I
might
have
be some
just the
changes that are
plain.
coming to the Elkins in 2027, and current Elkins are going to be a little bit obsolete, but that's a conversation for a different time.
Well, I don't know. I feel like in my old age now you know how you keep saying like 10 years ago I used to be this way, 7 years ago I used to be that way. Like I feel like I'm becoming that guy and that like I I when I get ready for hunting it's like where's this hoodie? Where's this vest? That's what I'm wearing.
Yeah,
And like the rest of it doesn't really matter. It's like those are the two things that like that's all I need. And basically I can throw some like a base layer on underneath it or one way or the other, or I can wear a lighter hoodie, but that vest is like perfect.
yeah, yeah. That and I found myself wearing the Saskatoon a bunch as well. Here, like we said, we open up first Saturday of October, and that first week of October will be below freezing a couple days. Like it's cold up here, and of course, you guys have a similar situation up in Michigan there, and so I'll be wearing the Saskatoon vest like October 8th, something like that. But again, over top of a hoodie, over top of a base layer, because by time 10 a.m. rolls around, it's 70 degrees, but it started out at like 34, you know, and so
Mm-hmm.
a vest is, in my opinion, the most pivotal piece of gear actually. Because it covers the early season, it covers the mid season, the late season. It's an excellent layering piece where you just need more core warmth. I don't need to put 18 sleeves on. I just need more core warmth, and then it leaves my arms and elbows free and my armpits and the gussets there. I can still draw a bow. I can still shoulder a firearm without, run the risk of doing something stupid. And yeah, the Elkins vest is on clearance right now, 50% off on the Huntworth website, huntworthgear.com. But that's for future reasons.
So what else is new over there? What do you got? What do you got that you can talk about?
What I can talk about is Silent X, which is we started Silent X last year. We have definitely seen a resurgence and really a strong push for quiet clothing, but not for just like quiet. Like it needs to have a technology behind it that still offers something, but then makes it quiet. And the number one thing is the windproof waterproofing. Windproof and waterproof clothing usually has got some sort of crinkle to it. That's just how the windproof film works. It's just science. We've developed a specialized technology that's in the patent process of completely deadening that noise without losing any of the windproofing ability. It's really spectacular. And we started it last year with the Warren and the Saginaw. This year we introduced it in a line garment in the Kenora. And we'll actually have another one called the Halifax, which I believe is going to launch probably after this podcast is out. So we will then have two lined and two soft shells. So two ultra heavyweight and two kind of more in those 20s and 30s degree temperature ultra quiet garments that use a lot of really special technologies that we're very proud of. Different materials for us. We've always kind of had the in velvet fleece, which is what's on the outside of the Elkins vest. And we've used like a low pile Berber fleece, which is just no brushing noises, no shuffling noises, and then on top of that, the Silent X technology on the inside. So we just have this really incredible line of ultra windproof, water resistant, ultra quiet clothing that will cover you anywhere from -10 to 55 degrees, depending on the garment. And of course, all of them feature heat boosts, which we've had for almost 7 years now. And it's something that we at Huntworth have always taken pride in, is the cold weather garments. But now we have a complete system that'll cover you from the beginning of bow season to the end of bow season, end of firearm season, end of muzzleloader season, with Silent X and with heat boost, and just help you really stay on stand longer. It's just, I've been prototyping this stuff for 18 months, and I finally get to bring it to market, and I can finally talk about it. And it's so cool. It's just been such an awesome experience getting it developed.
Yeah, I'm excited to check that out because I've got some of the Silent X stuff. I mean, I killed my deer in the UP wearing that stuff last year, and as far as quiet, it's freaking awesome. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like a throwback to I always liked the Cabela's Berber stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but it always soaked up water. Like it was like if there was rain. It's so funny. Frank, he would call it like his teddy bear suit, and he would say it was great except for if there was a raindrop, it would go. Whoosh. And it was like he was a sponge, and that stuff has been really great for that even in the snow. So, but
Yes.
the the heat boost stuff is no joke. So it's one of those things where it is a double-edged sword where you should be packing it in, because if you're going to cover any sort of distance, um, you'll lose a couple pounds if you're wearing it. Make
Oh
sure you
yeah.
drink
The
some water because
two-way
it's
leg
warm.
zippers. Two-way leg zippers on the bibs, man. Those things are wide open to the knee. Last year in Ohio, I didn't even bother wearing it. I literally was in. I had my base layer bottom and no shirt, and no base layer shirt even, because I had the heat boost base layers, and I needed to cover something, so I kept the pants on, and I hiked up a mountain in Ohio to shoot a buck there, like third week of October, fourth week of October, and man, I got to the top and I was like, I don't want to put any of this stuff on because I'm still hot, and this is just going to make it worse. And yeah, it is no joke. One of the number one questions we'll get, customer service emails and phone calls is they'll be like, is this stuff, can I walk in this stuff? I'm like, absolutely you can walk in it. I wouldn't walk far. That's always my response. I would want to make sure everything's wide open. The jacket's wide open. The bibs are zipped down to the knee with the two-way leg zipper, because you do not want to go far. And you can pack it in. It's definitely, in terms of the weight ratio to the bulk ratio is really fantastic because of the ability for it to absorb heat. We don't have to pack it so full of Primaloft and other stuff, and so it is nice. But yeah, man, I filmed a video the other day, and it was probably about 70 degrees outside. I'd film a video with a jacket, and oh man, I had that jacket on for about 5 minutes. I was like, I need to take this off, have a cool down moment, because it's not. I'm just gonna end up into a puddle here in a minute.
So, and right now they got 30% off going on over there as well, right?
Yeah, 30% off through August 30th for the preseason sale. That's site wide. So yeah, you will not see discounting that good outside of like November's Black Friday deals.
So again, for me, the grayling and I mean the vests obviously and the fingerless gloves. But what would you recommend? What are your go-tos outside of that?
Mine, like I said earlier, the Saskatoon vest. Absolutely love the Saskatoon vest. Just based on the temperature range. You can go the Elkins vest too if you don't want that much warmth. I love the Elkins bibs. I have probably killed more deer wearing the Elkins bibs than any other garment. Just the windproof, the mid-weight warmth, the two-way leg zippers, the adjustable shoulder straps, the two-way fly, just the knee patches for saddle hunting, just everything about it. It's just a fantastic pair of bibs. And then the new thing that I'm the most excited about is the Kenora jacket. The Kenora is the new line garment in Silenex. It took our Warren that we had with Heat Boost Merino wool last year and turned it into a line garment. So it's kind of Matterhorn-esque, but with Silenex. And so it's really toasty warm, stupid quiet, two-piece Bowhunter wrist cuff, the adjustable hood, the chest hand warmer pockets, the harness access port, like just everything about that garment. I've been prototyping that for a year now, and just the ability to have a lined heavyweight ultra quiet garment that I could still bow hunt in is huge, like absolutely huge. Because that's not always the case. When you get a really heavyweight garment, sometimes the sleeve's too puffy, the chest is too puffy, and we were able to eliminate all of that need and still keep it ultra warm.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on here and spitting some knowledge, especially and obviously being able to like I said, like I don't want to say dumb it down, but make it less intimidating for some of that stuff. So. I think that's going to help some guys kind of take some of this stuff into their own hands. So I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. Just the average Jack talking to the average guy. So that's my whole goal, man. That's it. From the YouTube to the shop, I want to make it less intimidating with every single person. And I always love it when I'll see a meme or something or a reel and it's like, explain this to me like I'm 5, right? And it's so funny that we request that. We say, hey, explain a 401k to me like I'm 5 years old. And no one's offended by that. So why can't we explain archery like they're 5 years old, right? But as soon as you do that, people get offended. Oh, what this, that, and the other thing, No, make it simple. Make it easy to digest. Make it way less intimidating. And you'll realize that you don't have nearly as much paralysis by analysis, and you can just enjoy shooting your bow.
Absolutely. Where can people find some more of this Archery for Dummies?
Archery for Dummies. You can find it. Go on to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Look up Average Jack Archery. You can't miss me. If you're in the northeast part of the country, you want to come into the shop, 21 North Front Street in Phillipsburg, PA, about a half hour west of Penn State. Go Nittany Lions. And feel free to email us, get in contact with us if you got any questions about bows, arrows, tuning, broadheads, all that sort. Although I think everybody knows my stance on broadheads now. But yeah, any questions you got about anything related to archery and archery hunting, saddle hunting, I'm an open book. Happy to help.
All right. Appreciate it, Nate. Thanks, sir.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you.